The heat in Rome is suffocating. It is August 1492, and the air inside the Sistine Chapel is thick enough to choke a man. The scent of unwashed bodies, heavy incense, and melting beeswax hangs stagnant under Michelangelo's ceiling, which does not yet exist. Only the star-flecked blue of the old vault looks down upon 23 cardinals. They are locked in, sealed away from the world, sweating in their heavy wool robes. But the heat they feel isn't just the Italian summer, it is the friction of ambition grinding against opportunity. In the flickering candlelight, shadows stretch long and thin against the walls, whispering secrets that could damn a soul for eternity. A hand reaches out from the gloom, not to pray, but to pass a heavy velvet purse. The clink of gold florins is muffled by the heavy fabric, a sound softer than a heartbeat, but louder than a thunderclap in the eyes of God. Rodrigo Borgia, a man with the broad chest of a bull and eyes that burn with a terrifying intelligence, is not waiting for the Holy Spirit to decide the fate of Christendom. He is buying it. Mule loads of silver are moving through the back alleys of the Vatican. Castles and bishoprics are being traded like playing cards. This is not the election of a shepherd. It is the coronation of a king who intends to conquer the world, starting with heaven itself. To walk these marble halls where holiness and horror intertwine and to uncover the secrets history tried to bury, join us, subscribe, and step into the past. The Catalan Outsider. To understand the sudden, terrifying rise of the Borgia dynasty, you must first wash away the image of Rome as a pristine museum of white marble and polite tourists. You must close your eyes and imagine a carcass. In the late 15th century, the Eternal City is a graveyard of empires, a place where goats graze in the overgrown ruins of the Roman Forum, and wolves, real wolves with starving eyes, prowl beneath the arches of the Colosseum at night. It is a city of 40,000 souls living in the hollowed-out skeleton of a metropolis that once housed 1 million. The streets are not paved with gold, they are ankle-deep in mud, offal, and the blood of daily vendettas. Here, violence is the only common language, and the silence of the night is routinely broken by the clash of steel and the screams of men dying for the color of a crest. In this bruised and battered city, power is held by the ancient baronial families, the Colonna and the Orsini. They are the warlords of the cobblestones, tracing their lineage back to the Caesars, believing that Rome belongs to them by right of blood. They view the papacy not as a spiritual burden, but a local trophy, a crown to be passed between cousins. To them, the church is a family business. But in the shadows of the Vatican, a man is watching them with a patience that masks a burning, insatiable hunger. He is not Roman. He is not even Italian. He is Rodrigo Borgia, and to the proud families of Rome, he is a Catalan, a slur that drips with contempt, signifying a foreigner, an interloper, a barbarian from the Spanish coast who has no business wearing the silks of the church. Rodrigo is 61 years old in the summer of 1492, but he possesses the vitality of a man half his age. Descriptions from the time speak of a magnetic presence, a cheerfulness that draws men in, and a sensuality that unsettles the pious. He is broad-shouldered, with eyes that seem to laugh even when his mouth does not. He has served 5 popes as vice-chancellor, the administrator of the church's vast bureaucracy. He knows where every skeleton is buried because in many cases he held the shovel. He is the richest cardinal in the college, a man of immense administrative genius who has kept the machinery of the Vatican running while others played at war. But wealth and competence are not enough to wash away the stain of his birth. To the Romans, he is a marrano, a derogatory term hinting at Jewish ancestry, used to mark him as eternally other. He knows that he is tolerated for his gold, but despised for his blood. The tension breaks in July.
Pope Innocent VIII, a man frail in body and weak in spirit, begins to die. It is a slow, grotesque exit. The heat of the Roman summer turns the papal apartments into a stifling oven. Doctors, desperate and superstitious, try everything to keep the Holy Father alive, including, according to dark rumors whispered in the taverns, blood transfusions from 3 young boys who are paid with a ducat and die for their trouble. But the death cannot be bribed. On July 25th, the Pope breathes his last, and the sede vacante, the vacant see, begins. This is the most dangerous moment in the life of the city. The moment the Pope's eyes close, law and order evaporate. The jails are thrown open. The servants of the dead Pope loot his apartments, stripping the rings from his cold fingers and the tapestries from the walls, leaving the corpse naked on a plank. Down in the streets, the mob rises. The cry goes up, "Death to the Catalans!" Rioters, fueled by the hatred of the Orsini and Colonna, hunt down anyone speaking Spanish. Storefronts owned by Spaniards are smashed and torched. Bodies are left in the gutters.
Rodrigo Borgia barricades himself in his fortified palace. He hears the chants calling for his head. He smells the smoke of the burning city drifting through his windows. He knows that if a Colonna or an Orsini is elected pope, he will be stripped of his lands, his titles, and perhaps his life. He has reached the edge of the precipice. There is no retreat for a man like Rodrigo. He realizes that the only place safe enough for him to stand is on the throne itself. He looks at his chests of gold, at the benefices and castles he controls, and he makes a decision that will shake the foundations of faith. He will not pray for the Holy Spirit to choose him. He will give the Holy Spirit no choice. On August 6, 1492, the heavy wooden doors of the Sistine Chapel are pulled shut. The command, "Extra omnes," everyone out, echoes off the frescoed walls, banishing the servants, the ambassadors, and the spies. Inside, 23 cardinals are sealed into a world of their own making. They are cut off from the sun, the wind, and the news of the city. The windows are boarded up and covered with waxed cloth to prevent signals from being passed to the outside, plunging the room into a perpetual, suffocating twilight. The air grows stale within hours. Within days, in the crushing heat of the Roman August, it becomes putrid. The arrangements are primitive. Each cardinal has a small makeshift cell partitioned by curtains, essentially a wooden booth barely large enough for a bed and a desk. The sanitation is practically non-existent, the stench of the latrines mingling with the perfume of incense, creating a nauseating atmosphere where the princes of the church must eat, sleep, and conspire. In this claustrophobic pressure cooker, the first rounds of voting are a polite fiction. The cardinals cast their ballots into the golden chalice on the altar, but no one expects a quick result. The frontrunners are clear, and neither of them is Rodrigo Borgia. The frontrunner is Giuliano della Rovere, a man of iron will and fiery temper, backed by the gold of the French king. He views the papacy as a weapon to be wielded against the enemies of God, and he views Rodrigo as a cancer to be excised. Opposing him is Ascanio Sforza, the brother of the Duke of Milan, a man who represents the tangled web of Italian secular politics. They are the titans, the immovable objects. Rodrigo sits in the background, a predator in the tall grass, watching them exhaust each other. He knows that deadlocks breed desperation, and desperation lowers the price of a soul. As the days drag on, the heat becomes a weapon. Tempers fray. The older cardinals, frail and exhausted, begin to falter. The stalemate is dangerous. Outside, the Roman mob is restless, and rumors of a French invasion are swirling. Christendom needs a head, and it needs one now. This is the moment Rodrigo has been waiting for. Under the cover of darkness, while his rivals sleep or pray, Rodrigo begins to work. He does not offer prayers, he offers reality. He targets Ascanio Sforza, the key to the deadlock. The negotiations are not subtle, they are transactional,
conducted in hushed whispers in the dim corners of the chapel. Rodrigo knows what Sforza wants, wealth and power that rivals a king. Eyewitness accounts and later historical investigations paint a scene of breathtaking corruption. To secure Sforza's vote and the votes that he controls, Rodrigo offers the unimaginable. He promises Sforza his own position as vice-chancellor, the most lucrative office in the church. He throws in his own fortress-like palace, the Palazzo Borgia, with all its furniture and silver. To other cardinals, he promises fortified towns, bishoprics, and abbeys. Mules laden with silver are said to be parked outside the Vatican, waiting for the signal to deliver their heavy burdens to the homes of the wavering electors. Rodrigo is essentially liquidating his entire career, stripping himself of decades of accumulated wealth to bet everything on a single roll of the dice. He is buying the keys to heaven with the currency of earth. By the night of August 10th, the deal is struck. The whisper runs through the cells like a fever. The Spaniard has the votes. Giuliano della Rovere realizes too late that the ground has shifted beneath his feet. He has been outmaneuvered not by holiness, but by a checkbook. The following morning, the sun rises over a Vatican that has changed forever. The cardinals approach the altar one by one. The slips of paper are read aloud. One name repeats over and over, a rhythmic drumbeat of destiny. Rodrigo, Rodrigo, Rodrigo. When the final count is tallied, the required 2/3 majority is achieved. The man who entered the conclave as a despised outsider rises from his seat. He is no longer Rodrigo Borgia. He smiles at the men he has bought and the men he has defeated, and announces his new name, Alexander VI.
The window of the Vatican is thrown open. The crowd in St. Peter's Square, thousands strong, looks up, shielding their eyes against the glare. They expect an Italian, a savior, a Roman. Instead, the announcement rings out, Habemus Papam, followed by the name that freezes the blood of the old families. The reaction is a mix of awe and terror. As the new pope steps out onto the balcony to bless the city, he is resplendent. He is 61 but looks 40. He radiates a terrifying charisma, raising his hands high. But down in the crowd, the ambassadors are already writing their letters home. The wolf has entered the fold, one writes. Another grimly predicts, now we are in the power of a wolf, the most rapacious perhaps that this world has ever seen. And if we do not flee, he will inevitably devour us all. The Borgia era has begun. The coronation of Alexander VI is not merely a ceremony, it is an act of conquest. Rome has not seen a spectacle like this since the days of the emperors. The new pope orders the streets cleared of mud and garbage, masking the decay with tapestries and garlands of flowers. When he rides from the Vatican to the Lateran Basilica to take possession of his cathedral, he does not ride a humble donkey, as tradition suggests for the Vicar of Christ. He rides a magnificent white stallion, draped in gold and pearls. The imagery is deliberate. He is not just a priest, he is a king. The Borgia bull, the red grazing beast of his family crest, is plastered on every surface. It hangs from balconies. It is painted on shields. It is woven into the flags that snap in the hot wind. The message is visceral. God has not just sent a shepherd, he has sent a beast of burden to carry the world. But beneath the roaring cheers of the crowd, cheers paid for with Borgia coin thrown by the handful, there are omens. The heat is so intense, the weight of the papal tiara so crushing, that Alexander actually faints during the procession. He slides from his horse, gasping for air, his face turning the color of ash. His attendants rush to fan him, whispering frantically. For a terrifying moment, the dynasty seems to teeter before it has even begun.
He recovers, laughing it off with that indomitable vitality. But the Romans cross themselves. They see what the Pope ignores, a warning from heaven that the burden he bought is too heavy for mortal shoulders. Yet the true scandal is not the fainting, nor the bribery. It is what Alexander brings with him into the Vatican. Previous popes had nephews, a polite euphemism for illegitimate sons hidden away in shadow. Alexander destroys this hypocrisy. He does not hide his children, he parades them. He is the first pope to acknowledge his offspring openly, to let them live within the sacred walls of the apostolic palace. Enter the Borgia brood, the children of his longtime mistress Venosa de Catanai. They stand beside him, not as sins to be repented, but as princes of a new royal bloodline. There is Caesar, 17 years old, possessing the dark, brooding intensity of his father, but none of his joy. He has the face of a fallen angel and the eyes of a shark. He has been groomed for the church since he was a child, forced into a destiny he loathes. While the crowds cheer his father, Caesar watches with a cold detachment, his hand resting uneasily on the hilt of a ceremonial dagger he is not supposed to wear. He does not want to pray, he wants to conquer. Next to him stands Juan, a year younger but infinitely more arrogant. Juan is the golden child, the favorite. He preens in silks and velvets, soaking up the adoration that Caesar despises. He is reckless, vain, and cruel, a boy who kicks dogs and laughs at beggars. Yet in the Pope's eyes, Juan can do no wrong. He is the designated heir to the Borgia secular power, the future duke, the general. Then there is Lucrezia, barely 12, a pawn with long golden hair and an innocent smile that hides a terrified heart. She is already being measured for her wedding dress, her value calculated in alliances and dowries. She holds the hand of the youngest, Joffre, a quiet boy who seems lost in the noise. As the sun sets on Coronation Day, the Vatican is ablaze with torchlight. The Pope sits on his throne, his children arranged around him like a living shield. He looks out at the eternal city, which now belongs to him. He believes he has won. He believes that by sheer force of will, he can turn his Spanish clan into the greatest dynasty Europe has ever known. But as he looks at his sons, he misses the glance Caesar shoots at Juan, a look not of brotherly love, but of pure, distilled hatred. Alexander VI has conquered Rome. He has defeated the cardinals. He has silenced the mob. But he has brought the enemy inside the gates. The danger is no longer the Orsini or the Colonna. The danger is sitting at his own dinner table. The Spanish bull has charged into the china shop of history, and the first things to break will not be his enemies, but his own heart.
The fratricide in the Tiber. If the election of Alexander VI was a triumph of will, the years that follow are a study in the corrosive nature of favoritism. By 1497, the Borgia family sits atop the world, but the foundation is cracking under the weight of a poisonous sibling rivalry. To understand the tragedy that is about to unfold, you must look at the two sons of the Pope not as princes, but as mirror opposites reflecting the fractured soul of their father. On one side stands Juan Borgia, the Duke of Gandia. He is the sun around which the Pope's universe orbits. Juan is 21 years old, dashing, reckless, and hopelessly incompetent. He is a man who treats war like a hunt and governance like a party. He struts through Rome in Spanish brocades, his fingers dripping with jewels, leaving a trail of broken hearts and offended husbands in his wake. The Pope, blinded by a father's fierce, irrational love, sees a great general in this pampered boy. He gives Juan command of the papal armies, entrusting the safety of the church to a youth who cares more about the cut of his doublet than the strategy of a siege.
On the other side, in the shadows cast by Juan's brilliance, stands Cesare. He is 21 as well, but his soul is ancient. Cesare possesses all the genius, the discipline, and the ruthless efficiency that Juan lacks. He is a natural predator, a man born to wield a sword and command empires. But he is cursed by a cruel twist of fate. He is the second son. In the rigid hierarchy of the time, the second son belongs to God. Cesare has been forced into the crimson robes of a cardinal, a gilded cage that suffocates him. While Juan plays at war, Cesare is chained to the Vatican bureaucracy, signing documents and chanting liturgy, his brilliant mind wasting away in the incense-choked air. He watches his brother fail time and again, watching Juan retreat from battles he should have won, watching him insult powerful allies, and yet the Pope only heaps more honors upon the favorite. The resentment in Cesare does not burn like a fire, it freezes like ice, sharp and deadly. The tension comes to a head on the sweltering night of June 14, 1497. The family gathers for a farewell dinner at the home of Venosa de Catania, their mother. It is meant to be a joyous occasion. Cesare is set to depart for Naples. Juan is to remain in Rome. The wine flows, the candlelight flickers on the silver, and the laughter is loud. But beneath the pleasantries, the air is thick with unsaid things. Eyewitnesses later recall a strange energy between the brothers, glances that lingered too long, jokes that carried a barbed edge. They are Cain and Abel in velvet, breaking bread while the devil waits outside. As the night deepens, the party breaks up. The brothers mount their mules to ride back to the Vatican. The city is dark, the streets narrow and labyrinthine. Near the Jewish quarter, Juan pulls up his reins. He tells Cesare and his servants that he is not going back to the palace just yet. He has a morris business to attend to. It is a typical Juan boast, another conquest, another secret meeting. He dismisses his retinue, keeping only a single masked man who had joined him at dinner, a mysterious figure whose identity has never been confirmed. Cesare watches him go. We can only imagine the expression on the cardinal's face as he sits in the gloom, watching the brother who has everything ride away into the black throat of the Roman night. Does he feel concern? Or does he feel the cold, opportunistic calculation of a chess master, seeing a piece left unguarded? Juan Borgia turns a corner, the hooves of his mule clattering on the cobblestones, fading into silence. It is the last time he is ever seen alive. The golden boy of the Borgia dynasty has just ridden out of history and into a mystery that will haunt the Vatican forever. The sun rises on June 15th, baking the cobblestones of Rome, but the Duke of Gandia does not return. At first, the Vatican is not alarmed. Juan is a creature of the night. His tardiness is usually the result of a lingering tryst in some noblewoman's bedchamber or a gambling session that stretched until dawn. Pope Alexander VI, busy with the administration of the faith, waves away the initial concerns. The Duke is young, he likely tells his secretaries, perhaps with a knowing, indulgent chuckle. He will return when he is hungry or tired. But as the hours stretch into afternoon, the chuckle dies in the Pope's throat. The sun begins to set, casting long, bloody shadows across St. Peter's Square, and still, Juan's apartments are empty. A cold knot of dread tightens in Alexander's stomach. The Pope orders inquiries. Messengers are dispatched to the homes of the Orsini, to the gambling dens, to the brothels. They return empty-handed. The mask of papal invincibility slips. The father begins to panic.
By the morning of June 16th, the panic turns to hysteria. The Pope is no longer the vicar of Christ. He is a frantic parent pacing the marble floors. Finally, a breakthrough. A Slavonian timber merchant who operates a woodyard on the banks of the Tiber River is dragged before the pontiff.
He is trembling, terrified of the men in red robes who surround him. When asked if he saw anything unusual on the night of the 14th, he shrugs. Yes, he saw something, but in Rome, seeing things gets a man killed, so he had kept his mouth shut. Under pressure, the story spills out. He tells the Pope that around midnight he was sleeping on his boat to guard his timber. He woke to see two men emerge from the shadows of the alley near the riverbank. They looked left, then right, ensuring the coast was clear. Then a man on a white horse appeared, a dead body slung across the saddle behind him, held in place by two other men on foot. They rode to the edge of the river, the dumping ground of Rome's sins. The horse was turned, and with a heave, the men threw the corpse into the dark, swirling water. The merchant pauses, the memory vivid. He says the rider asked, "Has it sunk?" The men on foot replied, "Yes, sir." But then the rider pointed to a dark object floating on the surface, the victim's cloak. One of the men picked up a heavy stone and hurled it at the fabric, sinking it beneath the muck. They watched for a moment, then vanished into the night. When the Pope asks, with a voice cracking with fury and grief, why the merchant didn't report a murder to the authorities, the man gives an answer that damns the entire era. "In my time, I have seen 100 dead bodies thrown into the river at that spot on a night, and no one ever troubled himself about them." The order is given. The Tiber must be dragged. It is a grotesque spectacle. Hundreds of fishermen, boatmen, and servants line the banks with hooks and nets. The Pope waits in the Vatican, staring out the window, praying for a miracle he knows will not come. Around midday, a fisherman's hook snags something heavy. Slowly, laboriously, the weight is hauled up from the silt. It is not a sack of garbage. It is a man, dressed in velvet, his boots still spurred. They pull the body of Juan Borgia onto the muddy bank. He is still fully clothed in his finery. His gloves are on his hands. His purse is still attached to his belt, filled with 30 unspent gold ducats, proof that this was not a robbery. This was an execution. He has been stabbed 9 times, in the neck, the head, the torso, and the legs. His throat has been slit. The water washes the mud from his pale, lifeless face, revealing the boy the Pope loved above all else. The news is carried to the Vatican not by a messenger, but by the wailing of the people who see the body carried through the streets. When Alexander VI hears the words, "The Duke is dead," the fortress of his soul collapses. The most powerful man in Christendom locks himself in his room and howls like a wounded animal, his cries echoing through the stone halls, a sound of raw, primal agony that terrifies the cardinals who listen outside the door. He refuses to eat. He refuses to drink. For 3 days the Pope does not speak. He only weeps. The burial of Juan Borgia is a surreal, hushed affair. There is no state funeral, no pomp, no grand procession. The heat of June means the body cannot wait. Under the cover of darkness, the Duke of Gandia is carried by torchlight to the church of Santa Maria del Popolo. The silence of the city is heavy, broken only by the shuffling of feet and the muffled sobs of the family. But one figure is notably dry-eyed. Cesare Borgia walks in the procession, his face a mask of smooth, impenetrable marble. He does not weep for the brother who took the birthright he coveted. He does not wail like his father. He walks with the quiet, terrifying dignity of a man who has accepted the new order of things. In the days that follow, Rome becomes a whispering gallery of accusation. Who killed the Pope's son? The list of suspects is as long as the list of men Juan had offended. Was it the Orsini, striking a blow against the Borgia power? Was it a jealous husband, tired of Juan's seductions? Was it the younger brother of Giovanni Sforza, seeking revenge for the family's humiliation? The Pope, in his grief, lashes out. He launches an investigation that tears through the city. Houses are searched, servants are tortured, and spies are dispatched to every corner of Italy.
But as the evidence is sifted, the trails go cold, or, more chillingly, they turn inward. The whispers begin to change. They stop pointing at the Orsini and start pointing at the Vatican itself. People remember the dinner at Vanazza's. They remember the tension. They remember that the only person who stood to gain everything from Juan's death was Cesare. With Juan gone, the role of Captain General of the Church is vacant. The secular power, the armies, the dukedoms, they are all suddenly available. And Cesare, the man who loathes his priestly robes, is the only one capable of picking them up. The investigation ends abruptly. One day the Pope is demanding blood, the next he falls silent. The police stop searching. The questions stop being asked. Historians believe that Alexander VI, with his terrifying intellect, finally looked at the puzzle pieces and saw the image they formed. He realized that to find the killer, he would have to look into the eyes of his remaining son. To prosecute the murderer would be to destroy the only heir he has left. It is a moment of Greek tragedy. The father realizes that the son he loves less has devoured the son he loved most, and to save the dynasty, he must forgive the unforgivable. On August 17, 1498, a year after the murder, the final act of this silent coup takes place. Cesare Borgia enters the consistory, the gathering of cardinals. He is not there to discuss theology. He stands before his father and his peers and does something that has never been done in the history of the Church. He asks to be released from his vows. He resigns the cardinalate. The red hat, the symbol of his holy office, is set aside. In its place, he straps on a sword. The transformation is instantaneous. The brooding cleric vanishes. The warlord emerges. He is named the Duke of Valentinois by the King of France. He is given command of the armies. He steps into the boots of his dead brother, but he fills them in a way Juan never could. Juan was a playboy. Cesare is a power. As he walks out of the Vatican, he leaves the ghost of his brother in the mud of the Tiber. He has committed the ultimate sin, the primal crime of Cain, and he has been rewarded for it. The city watches him go, and they feel a new kind of fear. Juan was dangerous because he was reckless. Cesare is dangerous because he is deliberate. He has shown that he will let nothing, not God, not vows, not even his own blood, stand between him and his ambition. The Prince of Shadows has stepped into the light, and the shadow he casts will darken all of Italy. The Pope dries his tears and turns his attention to his new secular heir. The grief is packed away in a dark corner of his heart, replaced by the pragmatic need to survive. The Borgias are wounded, but they are far from dead. In fact, they are just getting started. The Golden Pawn. To the Victorian playwrights and the penny dreadfuls of later centuries, Lucrezia Borgia is a monster. She is the Black Widow of the Vatican, a woman who keeps poison in a hollow ring, pouring death into the goblets of her lovers while laughing softly behind a fan. History has painted her as an incestuous schemer, a willing accomplice in the carnage wrought by her father and brother. But if you strip away the black paint of legend and look at the primary sources, you do not find a predator, you find a prisoner. You find a girl drowning in a sea of testosterone, a woman whose only crime was being the currency in a bank managed by sociopaths. In 1493, Lucrezia is barely 13 years old. She is described as having heavy golden hair that falls to her knees, hair she washes with lemon juice and dries in the Roman sun to keep its luster. She has light eyes and a grace that charms the hardened diplomats of Europe. But to her father, Pope Alexander VI, and her brother Cesare, she is not person, she is a treaty in a skirt. Her value is calculated not in her character, but in who she can marry to secure the Borgia flank.
She is a beautiful, breathing piece of real estate. Her first sale is to Giovanni Sforza, the Lord of Pesaro. The wedding is an explosion of Renaissance excess. The Pope, beaming with pride, presides over a ceremony that blurs the line between a sacrament and a circus. Lucrezia is draped in brocade so heavy she can barely stand, weighed down by pearls and rubies that represent the wealth of the Papal States. She is a child bride, thrust into the bed of a man twice her age, a man she does not know and certainly does not love. For a brief moment, the alliance holds. The Borgias have their link to the powerful Sforza clan in Milan. Lucrezia is the dutiful wife, the golden thread tying the knot. But in the volatile world of Italian politics, alliances rot faster than fruit in the summer sun. Within 4 years, the political winds shift. The Borgias no longer need the Sforzas. They need to align with Naples to check the power of the French. Giovanni Sforza is no longer a son-in-law, he is an obstacle. But in the Catholic Church, marriage is eternal. You cannot simply discard a husband because he has become inconvenient. Unless, of course, the marriage never really happened.
The Borgias unleash a weapon more humiliating than the sword, the annulment. The Pope declares that the marriage to Giovanni Sforza is invalid because it was never consummated. They claim Sforza is impotent. It is a public castration, a slander designed to destroy his reputation and free Lucrezia for a better bidder. Sforza, furious, fires back, accusing the Pope of wanting his daughter for himself, a dark rumor of incest that will stain the Borgia name for eternity. But he is one man against the power of Rome. Under threat of execution, Sforza is forced to sign a confession admitting his own inadequacy. The final act of this farce takes place in a closed room in the Vatican. Lucrezia, now 17, is subjected to a physical examination by a panel of matrons and clerics to prove she is still a Virgo intacta. Imagine the scene, the daughter of the Pope, the most famous woman in Italy, forced to submit to the probing eyes of the Church to legally prove that she has been untouched, all so her father can sell her again. She passes the test, the marriage is dissolved, the Pope laughs, the cardinals nod, and Lucrezia is declared a virgin once more, repackaged and put back on the shelf, ready for the next buyer. She learns then that her body is not her own, it belongs to the dynasty. The second sale is, miraculously, a love match. In 1498, Lucrezia is married to Alfonso of Aragon, the Duke of Bisceglie. He is 17, she is 18. By all accounts, Alfonso is the most beautiful youth Rome has ever seen, kind, gallant, and gentle. For a fleeting moment, the grim fortress of the Borgia life is illuminated by genuine happiness. Lucrezia and Alfonso are inseparable. They laugh in the Vatican gardens. They are seen holding hands in the corridors where usually conspiracies are hatched. Lucrezia blossoms, finally stepping out of the shadows of her father and brother. She gives birth to a son, and for the first time, she believes she has found a sanctuary within her own family. But happiness in the House of Borgia is a fatal flaw. It implies independence, and Cesare Borgia tolerates no independence. While Lucrezia plays house, Cesare is reshaping the map of Europe. He has cast his lot with King Louis XII of France, seeking a French bride and French lances to conquer the Romagna. There is only one problem. France is the mortal enemy of Naples, and Alfonso is a Neapolitan prince. The man who was a prized asset 6 months ago is now a diplomatic embarrassment. Cesare looks at his sister's husband and sees a weed choking his garden. The atmosphere in the Vatican shifts. Alfonso, sensing the predator circling, flees Rome in disguise, only to be coaxed back by the Pope's assurances of safety. It is a lie. On the night of July 15, 1500, the trap springs. Alfonso is walking up the steps of St. Peter's Basilica, the very heart of Christendom. He is entirely vulnerable. Suddenly, shadows detach themselves from the pillars. Hired assassins fall upon him with daggers. It is a frenzy of steel and blood.
Alfonso fights back with the desperation of a cornered animal, but he is overwhelmed. He is stabbed multiple times in the head, arm, and leg. The assassins, believing the job finished, flee into the night as the guards arrive. But they have made a mistake. Alfonso is young and he is strong. He does not die. Bleeding out, he is carried into the Borgia apartments, leaving a trail of crimson on the holy marble. Lucrezia's reaction is not the weeping of a victim, it is the fury of a tigress. She realizes instantly who is responsible. She barricades herself in the room with her dying husband. She knows that poison is the favorite tool of the Vatican kitchen, so she refuses all food sent by the Pope or Cesare. She cooks Alfonso's meals herself over a small brazier in the bedroom. She and her sister-in-law, Sancha, stand guard over his bed day and night, sleeping in shifts, watching the door. For 30 days they hold death at bay. Against all odds, Alfonso begins to recover. His wounds close, the color returns to his cheeks. He sits up, he speaks, he laughs. It is a triumph of love over politics, a defiance of Caesar's will. But Caesar is not a man who accepts failure. He hears the reports that the Duke is recovering, and his patience snaps. He comes to visit the invalid. The scene is chilling. Caesar stands at the foot of the bed, looking at the man he tried to butcher. He does not offer prayers. He leans in, his voice a low, terrifying whisper that Lucrezia hears clearly. He says, "What is not done at lunch will be done at supper." It is a death sentence spoken in the presence of witnesses. Caesar turns and walks out, leaving the smell of fear in the room. Lucrezia knows the clock has started ticking. She doubles her guard, she locks the doors, but she is fighting a force of nature. She is trying to stop the tide with her bare hands. She looks at Alfonso, and she sees a ghost who hasn't realized he's dead yet. On August 18th, 1500, the sun sets on the Vatican, but the heat remains trapped in the stone walls. In the Borgia apartments, the air is stagnant, heavy with the scent of medicinal herbs and fear. Lucrezia and Sancha have kept their vigil for 33 days, exhausted, their eyes rimmed with red, starting at every creak of the floorboards. But vigilance has a limit.
Caesar decides that supper has arrived. He does not come alone this time. He sends his shadow, his personal executioner, Michelotto Corella. Michelotto is a man of few words and terrible efficiency, a professional killer who views murder not with passion, but as a chore to be completed. He arrives at the door of Alfonso's room with a troop of armed guards. The pretense of civility is gone. He demands entry. When Lucrezia and Sancha refuse, clinging to the doorframe, they are physically seized. It is a moment of pure, chaotic violence. The women scream, their cries echoing down the marble corridors, calling for the Pope, for God, for anyone. But the Pope is conveniently absent, and God seems to have looked away. The guards drag the screaming women out of the room. Sancha fights like a wildcat. Lucrezia weeps, her hands reaching out for the husband she knows she will never see again. The heavy oak door slams shut. The lock clicks. Silence falls. Inside the room, Alfonso of Aragon, still bandaged and weak, looks up at Michelotto. There is no swordplay this time. There is no blood to stain the sheets. Michelotto is a master of the garrote. It is intimate, quiet work. Eyewitnesses say it was done with a bowstring, twisted tight around the young duke's neck. Alfonso, who had survived the daggers of assassins on the steps of St. Peter's, is suffocated in his own bed in the heart of the Pope's palace by the Pope's own captain. It takes only minutes. When the door opens again, Alfonso is dead. The official story is released immediately. The Duke died of his wounds, or perhaps he fell out of bed in a feverish fit. It is a lie so thin it insults the intelligence of the Romans, but no one dares to question it. Lucrezia is broken.
Her grief is not the polite, decorous mourning of a noblewoman. It is a raw, terrifying thing. She screams at her father. She screams at Caesar. For the first time, the Pope seems shaken by the monster he has unleashed. He tries to comfort her, but his hands are stained with the complicity of silence. Caesar, however, is unmoved. He looks at his sister's tears with cold indifference. To him, Alfonso was a loose end, and now the knot is tied. He has cleared the board for his French alliance. But Lucrezia is now a liability in her grief. Her weeping echoes through the halls, a constant reminder of the crime. The Pope, needing to silence the scandal and prepare her for her next use, sends her away to Nepi, a fortress in the countryside. There, in the solitude of the Etruscan hills, something changes in Lucrezia Borgia. The girl who entered the carriage weeping for her lost love does not return. She realizes that tears will not save her. She realizes that in the House of Borgia, you are either the player or the piece, the butcher or the cattle. When she returns to Rome months later, the transformation is complete. She is cold, composed, and ready for business. Her father has arranged a third marriage, this time to Alfonso d'Este, the heir to the Duchy of Ferrara. It is a brilliant match, elevating her into one of the oldest, most snobbish families in Italy. The Este family is horrified at the prospect of welcoming the Pope's bastard and a poisoner into their bloodline, but the Pope bribes them with a dowry so massive it nearly bankrupts the Vatican. Lucrezia accepts her fate. She packs her trunks, she kisses her father's ring, she looks Caesar in the eye, a look of mutual recognition, two survivors staring across a chasm of blood. On January 6, 1502, she rides out of Rome. She leaves behind the rumors, the murders, and the suffocating heat of the Vatican. She heads north to Ferrara, where she will become a patron of the arts, a beloved duchess, and eventually a woman who dies with the reputation of a saint. She escapes the fire. But Caesar remains. As he watches his sister's caravan disappear into the dust of the Via Flaminia, he feels no loss. He feels only the thrill of the vacuum she has left behind. The distractions are gone. The family drama is resolved. Now the stage is entirely his. He turns his horse north, not to Ferrara, but to the Romagna. The golden pawn has left the board, and now the Black Knight is free to ride. The era of intrigue is over. The era of total war has begun. The Banquet of Chestnuts. If you want to see the face of the devil in the Renaissance, you do not look at the gargoyles on the cathedrals. You look at Cesare Borgia in the winter of 1500. He has shed the skin of the cardinal completely. He is now the Duke of Valentino, a warlord tearing through the Romagna like a scythe through dry wheat. He rides at the head of a terrifying army, French lancers in gleaming plate armor, Swiss pikemen who fight for pay and kill for sport, and a hardened corps of Spanish mercenaries who answer only to him.
Caesar is no longer the brooding boy in the background. He is a phantom. He wears black velvet, often donning a half mask to cover the first ravages of the French pox, syphilis, which is beginning to eat away at his handsome face. The mask only adds to the terror. He moves in silence, strikes without warning, and governs with a cold, mathematical precision. The Romagna, a lawless stretch of Italy ruled by petty tyrants and bandit lords, crumbles before him. He does not just conquer cities, he breaks them. At the siege of Capua, his troops sack the city with a ferocity that shocks Italy, slaughtering thousands. Caesar watches the smoke rise with the detachment of a scientist observing a chemical reaction. He has adopted a motto that is inscribed on his sword: Aut Caesar, aut nihil, either Caesar or nothing. But Caesar is not just a butcher, he is a genius.
Entering the chaotic city of Cesena, he finds it plagued by crime and vendettas. To restore order, he appoints a brutal governor, Ramiro de Lorca, giving him absolute power to crush the gangs. Ramiro does his job too well, filling the squares with heads on spikes. The city becomes safe, but the people are terrified and hateful. Cesare senses the mood shifting. He knows that a ruler must be feared, but not hated. On a freezing morning in December, the people of Cesena wake up to a horrific spectacle in the town piazza. There, lying on a wooden block, is the body of Ramiro de Lorca. He has been sliced in half at the waist. His head is stuck on a lance beside him, and a bloody knife rests on the block. It is a piece of grim theater directed by Cesare. By killing his own henchman, he sends a dual message. He has punished the oppressor to satisfy the people, but he has also shown that even his most loyal servants are not safe from his wrath. The town is pacified instantly. Niccolo Machiavelli, the Florentine diplomat watching from the sidelines, is mesmerized. He sees in Cesare the perfect prince, a ruler who is not bound by Christian morality, but the cold necessities of power. While Cesare is painting the snow of the Romagna red with blood, his father is turning the Vatican into a theater of the grotesque. The date is October 31, 1501, All Hallows' Eve. In the rest of Christendom, the faithful are preparing to pray for the souls of the dead. In the Apostolic Palace, however, the Borgias are preparing a celebration that will scorch their names into the history books forever. This is the night of the infamous Banquet of Chestnuts. The event takes place in Cesare's private apartments within the Vatican, just a stone's throw from the sacred altar of St. Peter's Basilica. The guest list is not composed of cardinals or diplomats, but 50 of Rome's most expensive courtesans, honest prostitutes as they were known, women of stunning beauty and refined skill. They dine first, the wine flowing in rivers, the laughter bouncing off the frescoed ceilings where saints look down in painted silence. Pope Alexander VI sits at the head of the table, an old man with the appetite of a glutton, watching the proceedings with a benign grandfatherly smile. Beside him sits Cesare, his face a mask of bored indulgence, and if the darker rumors are to be believed, Lucrezia, observing the spectacle before her final departure for Ferrara. After the dinner, the tables are cleared. The heavy candelabras, burning with perfumed wax, are placed on the floor, casting long, dancing shadows that twist and writhe against the walls. The servants bring in baskets filled not with gold or flowers, but with chestnuts. Thousands of them are scattered across the marble floor, rolling into the corners, carpeting the room in a layer of brown nuts. At a signal, the entertainment begins. The courtesans, now stripped of their heavy brocades and silks, begin to crawl on their hands and knees among the candelabras. The goal is to collect the chestnuts. The scene is a chaotic, carnal ballet, a tangle of limbs and laughter moving through the flickering light. It is a game of harvest, but the harvest is flesh. The Vatican, the seat of holiness, has been transformed into a pagan temple. The diary of Johann Burckhardt, the papal master of ceremonies, a man whose job is to record the solemn rituals of the Church, records this night with a dry, horrified precision. He writes of the prizes offered, fine silken tunics, pairs of shoes and hats to be awarded to the men who can perform the most acts with the women. It is the apex of Borgia hubris. They are not just breaking the rules of the Church, they are mocking them. By turning the papal apartments into a brothel on the eve of All Saints' Day, Alexander VI and Cesare are declaring their absolute supremacy. They are saying that they are above judgment, above morality, and above God. The Pope, The man who holds the keys to the kingdom of heaven sits clapping his hands, urging the lovers on, keeping score like a judge at a tournament.
To the outside world, this is the final proof that the Antichrist sits on the throne of Peter. When whispers of the banquet leak out, carried by shocked servants and scandalized ambassadors, Europe gasps. But the Borgias do not care. They are drunk on power. They have the French king as an ally, the Romagna as a fiefdom, and the treasury of the church as their personal bank account. They believe they have built a fortress that can withstand any siege, moral or military. But as the candles burn down to nubs and the laughter fades into the exhausted silence of the early morning, a different kind of shadow begins to creep into the room. It is unseen, unheard, and entirely fatal. The ancient Greeks knew that hubris, overweening pride, is always followed by nemesis, retribution. The Borgias have climbed to the very top of the mountain, challenging the sun itself. They do not see the cliff edge they are standing on. They do not realize that the air is getting thin and the ground is beginning to crumble. If the banquet of chestnuts was a display of moral rot, the event that follows a year later is a masterpiece of cold political execution. By late 1502, Cesare Borgia has become too powerful. Even his own captains, the condottieri, mercenary lords who fight for coin, begin to fear him. They realize that once Cesare has devoured the petty tyrants of Italy, he will turn his appetite toward them. In a secret meeting at a castle near Lake Trasimeno, they form a conspiracy. They swear to destroy the monster they helped create. For a moment, Cesare is vulnerable. His armies mutiny. He loses cities. The vultures begin to circle. But Cesare does not panic. He fights back not with cannons, with silence and smiles. He sends envoys to the rebels, offering incredibly generous terms. He promises them their lands back, he promises higher pay, he promises forgiveness. He plays the role of the wounded, misunderstood prince perfectly. He separates them, flattering their egos, making each one believe he is the favorite. Greed and vanity blind them. They sign a peace treaty. On New Year's Eve, 1502, the reconciliation is to be celebrated in the seaside town of Senigallia. Cesare arrives with a small force, looking uncharacteristically humble. The rebel captains, Vitellozzo Itelli and Oliverotto da Fermo, ride out to meet him, leaving their armies outside the walls as a gesture of trust. They embrace Cesare, calling him brother. They smile, believing they have tamed the wolf. They ride together into the town, but as soon as the gates clang shut behind them, the smile vanishes from Cesare's face. At a subtle signal, his guards draw their weapons. The captains are surrounded, seized, and dragged into a nearby palace. There is no trial, there is no debate. That very night, seated on two chairs in an empty room back to back, Vitelli and Oliverotto are strangled with piano wire. Cesare sends a letter to his father in Rome. The trap has snapped. It is his masterpiece, the Senigallia surprise. It is a move so ruthless, so perfectly executed, that Machiavelli, who is there in the town, writes of it with breathless admiration. Cesare has decapitated his opposition in a single night without shedding a drop of his own soldiers' blood. By the summer of 1503, the Borgias are untouchable. They have eliminated the Roman barons, crushed the Romagna, and tricked the mercenaries. They are the masters of the game. The Pope, now 72, is wealthier and more powerful than ever. Cesare is poised to be crowned king of Romagna. They begin to plan their final moves, the conquest of Tuscany, the total domination of central Italy. But history has a sense of irony that no human architect can match. It is August again, 11 years almost to the day since Rodrigo Borgia stepped into the Conclave to buy the Papacy. The Roman sun is a hammer, beating down on the 7 hills. The marshes are steaming, breeding clouds of mosquitoes that carry the Roman fever, malaria. On the evening of August 5th, a seemingly innocuous invitation arrives.
Cardinal Adriano Castellesi da Corneto invites the Pope and the Duke of Valentinos to a supper party at his villa in the cool hills outside the city. It is to be an intimate gathering. The wine has been selected with care. As Alexander VI and Cesare ride out to the villa, the sun sets in a blaze of red, bathing the vineyards in a light that looks uncomfortably like blood. They are laughing, confident, invincible. They do not see the invisible assassin riding with them, not a man with a dagger, but a microscopic parasite in the gut of a mosquito. Or perhaps, as the darker legends insist, the assassin is in a bottle of poisoned wine that is about to be poured into the wrong goblet. They arrive at the garden. The air is sweet with jasmine and heavy with heat. They take their seats. The cups are filled. The toast is raised. The Borgias drink to their future, unaware that they have just swallowed their doom.
The fever and the fall. The dinner at Cardinal Cornetto's villa begins as a triumph of Renaissance hospitality, but ends in a confusion of stumbling servants and shattered glass. It is August 12, 1503. The heat of the day has not broken with the sunset. Instead, it has settled into the valley like a warm, wet blanket. The guests are sweating beneath their silks. The Pope, usually the life of the party, the man whose laughter could fill a cathedral, grows strangely quiet. He complains of a sudden chill, a paradox in the sweltering air. Across the table, Cesare's face goes ashen. He grips the table, his knuckles white, fighting a nausea that rises like a tide. Within hours, the banquet is abandoned. Father and son are rushed back to the Vatican in separate carriages, their bodies racked by violent vomiting and burning fever. The gates of the apostolic palace slam shut, and the physicians are summoned. For centuries, historians have debated what happened at that table. The romantic, sinister version suggests that the Borgias, intending to poison the rich Cardinal Cornetto to seize his wealth, accidentally drank from the poisoned flagon themselves, a classic case of the biter bit. It is a poetic thought, the serpent dying by its own venom. However, the more prosaic reality is likely malaria, the Roman fever that claimed more lives in the Eternal City than any war. But whether it is arsenic or a mosquito, the result is the same. The two pillars of the Borgia dynasty are struck down in a single night. For a week, the Pope fights for his life. He is 72 years old, obese and exhausted, but his constitution is made of iron. He rallies, then collapses, his body waging a desperate war against the toxins in his blood. The Vatican becomes a place of whispered panic. The cardinals, sensing the end, begin to circle like sharks smelling blood in the water. They know that if Alexander dies while Cesare is healthy, the son will use his army to force the election of a puppet pope. But Cesare is not healthy. He lies in the room directly above his father, shivering so violently his bed rattles against the floor. He is submerged in a bath of ice water to break the fever, his skin peeling, his eyes rolling back in his head. He had planned for every contingency. He had a plan for the death of the Pope. He had a plan for the invasion of Tuscany. But he had never, in his darkest nightmares, planned for the possibility that he would be dying at the exact moment his father took his last breath. On August 18th, the Pope's condition turns catastrophic. He confesses his sins, though one wonders how much time he had to list them all. The last sacraments are administered. As the sun begins to set, casting the long shadow of St. Peter's obelisk across the square, Rodrigo Borgia, the man who bought God, dies. He does not die surrounded by his family. Cesare is too sick to move. Lucrezia is in Ferrara. Juan is a skeleton in the church of Santa Maria del Popolo. He dies surrounded by servants who are already eyeing the silver candlesticks. The moment the breath leaves his body, the horror begins. The summer heat accelerates decomposition to a grotesque degree.
Johann Burckhardt, the master of ceremonies, records the scene with a trembling hand. He writes that the Pope's body began to swell almost instantly. His face turned black, then purple. His tongue swelled until it filled his mouth. He became so bloated that he lost the shape of a human being. It was as if all the corruption, all the excess, and all the sins of his papacy were physically manifesting in his corpse. The fear of the Borgia monster is so great that no one wants to touch him. The guards and servants pillage the apartment, stripping the tapestries and leaving the dead Pope naked on a table. When the undertakers finally arrive, they find that the body has swollen so much that it will not fit in the coffin. There is no dignity left. Burckhardt describes how they are forced to pound the Pope's body with their fists, cramming the bloated limbs into the wooden box, finally jumping on the lid to force it shut. It is a gruesome, ignoble end for the man who once rode a white stallion through Rome as a king. The Spanish bull is packed away like spoiled meat. With the Pope dead and the coffin nailed shut, the silence in the Vatican is replaced by the roar of the mob. The news hits the streets of Rome like a spark in a powder keg. The bull is dead! The cry goes up from the slums to the palaces. The Orsini and Colonna families, exiled and broken by Cesare, suddenly flood back into the city, thirsty for revenge. They incite the people. Spanish shops are looted, Borgia servants are hunted down and beaten in the alleys. The city transforms into a hunting ground, and the prey is anyone with a Catalan accent.
In the Castel Sant'Angelo, Cesare Borgia lies in the dark, listening to the bells tolling for his father. It is the sound of his empire crumbling. He is 31 years old, the most feared man in Italy, the commander of the papal armies, the Duke of the Romagna. But he cannot stand up. The fever has left him weak, his vision blurred, his skin peeling in sheets. He has thousands of loyal soldiers stationed just outside the walls, waiting for a single command to seize the Vatican and install a friendly pope. But the command never comes. Cesare's too sick to think, too weak to sign his name. It is the ultimate irony. The man of action is paralyzed by his own biology at the precise second history demanded he move. The conclave that follows is a chaotic scramble. A compromise candidate, the elderly Pius III, is elected. He is a good man, but he is old and sick. He permits Cesare to remain in Rome, but the reprieve is short. 26 days after his election, Pius III dies. The throne is empty again. Now the wolf enters the fold for real. Giuliano della Rovere, the man Rodrigo Borgia outbid 11 years ago, returns with a vengeance. He is no longer the hot-headed cardinal of 1492. He is a seasoned political operator. He knows he needs the Spanish cardinals, Cesare's loyalists, to win the election, so he goes to Cesare. The meeting between the sick warlord and the ambitious cardinal is a masterclass in deception. Della Rovere is charming. He promises Cesare everything. He will confirm him as Captain General of the Church. He will protect his title as Duke of Romagna. He will treat him as a son. Cesare, usually the most suspicious man in Europe, is desperate. His judgment is clouded by illness and the terror of losing everything. He believes he can manipulate this old man just as his father did. He instructs his cardinals to vote for Della Rovere. It is the fatal mistake. On November 1st, 1503, Giuliano della Rovere is elected pope. He takes the name Julius II. He does not choose the name to honor a saint. He chooses it to honor Julius Caesar. There is only room for one Caesar in Rome, and the new pope intends to be it. The mask drops instantly. Once the crown is on his head, Julius II strips Cesare of his titles. He demands the return of the cities in the Romagna.
When Cesare hesitates, the Pope has him arrested. The Duke of Valentinois, the man who dined with kings and terrified nations, is dragged out of his apartments and thrown into a cell in the Vatican, the very palace where he was once a prince. He is forced to sign away his conquests in exchange for his freedom. The Prince of Machiavelli has been outplayed by a priest. Cesare is eventually released, fleeing to Naples, believing he is safe under the protection of the Spanish king. But the long arm of the Pope reaches him even there. Julius II demands his arrest. The Spanish betray him. In 1504, Cesare is shackled and put on a ship bound for Spain. He looks back at the coast of Italy as it fades into the mist. He will never see it again. The land he tried to unite, the city he tried to rule, it has all rejected him. He is no longer a player, he is a prisoner. For 2 years, the Prince of Shadows rots in a cell. He is held in the castle of La Mota, a grim fortress on the dusty plains of Medina del Campo in Spain. It is a humiliating cage for a man who dreamed of an Italian empire. But Cesare Borgia is not a man who accepts cages. Even in prison, the fire of his ambition smolders. He spends his days staring at the high walls, calculating, plotting, waiting. On a foggy night of October 1506, the impossible happens. Cesare escapes. Using a silk rope smuggled to him, he climbs down the sheer face of the castle tower. The rope is too short. He hangs in the darkness, the ground far below, invisible in the mist. He has to let go. He falls, shattering bones in his legs and feet. But the pain does not stop him. Dragging his broken body, he crawls to a waiting horse, pulls himself into the saddle, and rides into the night. It is a feat of superhuman will, a testament to the sheer, terrifying vitality of the Borgia blood. He flees north to the Kingdom of Navarre, ruled by his brother-in-law, King John. There he is welcomed not as a fugitive, but as a general. King John is fighting a rebellion against one of his vassals, the Count of Lérine. He needs a commander who understands war in its most brutal form. He looks at Cesare, broken, limping, scarred by syphilis, but still burning with that dangerous intelligence, and gives him command of the army. Cesare's back in the saddle. He rides to the town of Viana, a small fortress held by the rebels. It is a minor siege, a skirmish compared to the great campaigns of the Romagna. But for Cesare, it is a chance to prove that he is still the Duke of Valentinois, still the Caesar of his motto. On the morning of March 12, 1507, a storm is raging. The wind howls across the plains, driving rain into the faces of the soldiers. The rebels launch a surprise sortie, attempting to break the siege. Cesare, hearing the alarm, rushes out of his tent. He is in such a frenzy to fight that he does not wait for his armor. He throws on a light breastplate, grabs his sword, and leaps onto his horse. He does not wait for his bodyguard. He charges alone.
He sees a group of rebel knights retreating down a muddy road and gives chase. The red fury descends on him. He gallops after them, screaming challenges, disappearing into the driving rain and the shadows of a ravine. His men shout for him to stop, but the wind swallows their voices. Cesare rides on, convinced he is invincible, convinced that destiny is still his servant. But the retreat is a trap. The rebels turn. In the narrow, muddy ravine, Cesare is surrounded. He fights with the ferocity of a demon, slashing and parrying, but he is one man against many. A spear pierces his side. He is pulled from his horse. The knights do not know who he is. They see only a rich nobleman in fine clothes. They fall upon him like wolves. They stab him 25 times. They strip his body of its armor, its velvet, its boots. They leave him naked, bleeding into the mud of a foreign land, 1,000 miles from Rome. When his soldiers finally find him hours later, they do not recognize their general. They find only a broken, bloody thing, barely human, staring up at the gray Spanish sky with unseeing eyes. The man who terrified popes and kings, the man who wanted to be Caesar or nothing, has found his answer. He is nothing. He is just meat and bone returning to the earth. He is 31 years old.